is passive fire. Robust documentation is your best defence. Peter Blain is the Managing Director of Plus Systems. Now, Peter uses his experience and position as founder, educator and speaker to encourage change and empowerment for the better within the passive fire niche. Peter oversees a team that provides advice, training and a systemised approach to passive fire. So it's going to be a hot topic. Can you please put your hands together for Peter?
As a business, Plus Systems, I have 5, including myself, inspectors in the field, basically looking at passive fire. So we're looking at fire collars and penetrations. And it just drives me insane that the same shit gets done every time wrong. We spend a fortune. So what I'm going to do today, just a little quick. We're working, not an RTA, these are my opinion, get your own advice, that's basically what that says, that's my disclaimer, can't sue me. I'm going to go a little bit about passive fire, a little bit about some correction, or what correct systems look like. This presentation was 4 hours, and I've cut it down to, don't panic, cut it down to 25 minutes. So I've just decided to pick a few topics that we see wrong all the time, what to avoid. I want to talk about labels, I'm going to talk about penetration registers, that's documentation, and what you're going to do at the end with some questions. So, passive fire, I got it down here, which is why I keep looking down. QBCC's view, passive fire out of control. I've sat through some presentations today. You guys have got so much stuff to worry about. The last thing anyone cares about is passive fire. I come in at the end and that's the problem. This is the challenge we have as an industry. Shit's happened everywhere. And everyone is now trying to get it right. So, Grenfell, worst case. So, over in London, 98 people died. I think currently 12 people are in jail doing manslaughter charges. We don't want to be doing that. And just by the way, combustible cladding was number 5 on the list. The first 4, penetrations, doors, walls, and exhaust in the stairwells was the cause of death. So what did the industry focus on? The class of that. This is the building confidence. I'll just skip through this. New South Wales, they've got mandatory inspections. That's basically what that says. I won't read that. Victoria has the same mandatory or critical stage inspections. I actually saw this yesterday. The VBA have decided that they're going to put more pressure on the building certifiers to do inspections because they're currently not. My business does a lot of advice Australia-wide. And I get photos going, is this okay? And I go, no, not even close. Not only is it not right, it's thousands to fix up. So I'm going to do that. I just want to do a little, this is a quick, it's going to work. So this is, we're going? I think so, yeah. So this is basically what they call the Christmas tree fire. So this is the lights in the Christmas tree have caught alight. The fires is now lighting up. It's probably a dead Christmas tree, 3 weeks old. Lots of kindling to burn. I want you to have a look at the time. It doesn't look very good because I've got a number down there. But this is at 18 seconds. We've now, the chairs are light. Shortly the poor old bunny in the front will catch a light. We're still only at 30 seconds. So when you realise a collar, this is a collar between that room and the one upstairs. If I have no collar on a 100mm PVC pipe, that flame is up there and has the same flame and fire and death in the room above in 9 minutes. So everyone says, oh, it's only a passive fire. It's huge, it's important. This is a test that we did. As a business, we get test reports. I'm going to go a little bit in that later. So we get test reports that said, we've tested this and it works. We weren't sure, we wanted to do our own. So this is actually at Resolute Labs out here in Brisbane, or up in Brisbane. I want to make 2 points. So there's a PEX pipe here and a PEX pipe here. The one on the top side, this one, actually had a snap collar on it. And I'm not recommending snap necessarily, it had a intermittent collar on it. This one down here had standard fire cork, which I see everywhere. So PEX pipes, which I'll go in a bit later, need an intermittent, we need to close it off. This was flame throwing 4 minutes into the test. If that's aged care and aged care next door, and my mum's in that room, I'm pissed. This is death. This is really serious shit. And it just drives me insane. Go, we don't have to do it. We know what we're doing. We always do it this time. I almost swore really badly then. But it drives me insane, the excuses I hear, and I'll go through some of those later. I don't want to give you a BCA lesson, but I will need to make it clear that 60, 60, 60, you probably hear that FRL. The first one is structural. Don't worry about it. Doesn't apply to anything we do from penetrations. The second one is integrity. That's 60 minutes the fire won't get through the wall. That's the 60. So you'll see an FRL 60, 60. The last one is installation criteria. Copper pipe, the copper pipe gets to the point, details don't matter, but 180 degrees above the ambient. Once it gets to that point, anything there is combustible and will ignite. So we never have to wrap. Yeah, you do have to wrap. Just don't drive me insane. You need to know your FRLs, and this is the challenge I have. This is a really quick BCA lesson. So if you look at those two numbers there, this is a 7A car park or a 9 aged care. If it's a common wall, separating segments, 90, 90, 90, or 120, 120. If it's load-bearing, same. If it's non-load-bearing, 90, 90. I just point that out because we spend an enormous amount of time getting 120, 120 test systems in place, when quite often the BCA only wants 90 minutes. So you've had your total lesson in BCA today. The other thing I want to point out is, the bottom is the car park, which is a 7A. The one above is a retail, which is class 6. And you see the different FRLs. One's 120, one's 180, and the class 2 above would be 90, 90. It only needs to be the one below. So between the class, it's whatever the fire rating below is. So the amount of retail we do trying to get 180 minutes when the class below is 7 only needs 120. When we get to the next floor, between the retail 180 and the apartment, it needs to be 180. So you just need to understand that. What I need you to do is, when you start a job, builder, give me a markup of FRLs, everything in the building. First, before you decide what you're going to do. Here's a really complicated one. There's some 60, 60, there's 90, 90, there's a bin chute that's 180, and you've got stuff going in there. So you now have had a BCA lesson of that degree. What you're looking at here, so what we do as a business, we sit down, I know some of the people in the room have dealt with this. We generally get engaged by the builder to make sure that you guys are doing it properly. And we say, what are you using? You know, we hear all the time, we haven't worked it out yet. Anyone from New South Wales in the room, just out of curiosity? So in New South Wales, David Chandler, new commission, you tell us up front, before you get the building application, what you're doing. So I don't know if you're getting it now. It just drives us insane, because that's got to be on the drawings. So this is like, we'll get to the end and work out what we're doing is not going to happen anymore in New South Wales. Queensland is doing the same. If you look down that list, this is what we do on every job. The application there is, what have we got going through, what FRL, what wall system, what is it a test report, is it a set test or assessment? It's an issue in the building certified world. And this particular one, we approve it, the builder approves it, then we sit down with the building certifier and approve it. What we've done is, this is what we're going to do in the building. You need to know. Before you start, you need to know what you're doing. Down the comments there is, make sure you have this. You need an extra patch. You might need all the stuff. This is a database that we have. So I was going to say at enormous expense. Yeah, I'm only 38. This is what it does to me. We have 780 tests in a database, and we can search anything. So if you have a look, we've searched up the top there, a PEX pipe going through a plasterboard wall greater than 60/60. The list down under the system is, we've got ProMat, we've got Hilti, we've got, it says, here's the ones you can use, and these are things you've got to consider. So that's one we do up front to clarify what is going into the building. And then we do job specific, this is what's going in, and this is how you do it. So I would recommend, and I'll go through a bit data longer later, I look at a watch, I've got a Whoop on, it doesn't even have a time on it, and I'm looking at it, so anyhow. You guys need to know how to do it. And for political correctness, guys means guys and girls and people. That was an instruction given to me by marketing managers, is make sure you don't say guys. But I have. So the guys need to know what they're doing, generically girls and boys. And you need to I'd suggest pick the same product every job. Don't go to Reese or go to Bunnings and pick up some cork that says 4 hours, because generally it's probably not right. Know what they're doing and know how to do it. That's just all the products. I mean, just get the manual. Yeah, that's the typical in slabs you're going to see. You need to know what they are. I want to talk about stacks, stacks versus floor waste. It was mentioned before. Floor waste, the little red box says, a grate that water falls to. That's a floor waste, whereas if I've got a trap, the smoke gets contained. What it is if there's a fire below and smoke and flames start coming up through the grate, it closes off quicker. That's basically what it is. The other one that's always missed in most jobs, and that is the floor waste in a hydrant cupboard where you've got a waterproof. I think that's only a Queensland thing. I'm not sure other states do that. That's also a floor waste, the amount of times we see it. When you don't get it right, you've got to actually fix it up and make it a floor waste. This particular one, it's a bit of a bad example. It was actually a really deep slab, so the traps are actually up inside the slabs, but the building certifier decided that they were still floor waste, so he wanted collars put on it. There's some other options now. This is a Trafalgar product, which just goes on to floor waste, closes off, and makes an incorrect installation of floor waste. I use the product, not all collars are the same. The FC, standard pipe. FCS, the S is for socket. When I've got a socket inside a collar, I've got to use one that's tested for a socket. And the last one's a floor waste, so it's a whole different, understand the different products. The top left is a zinc anchor. Do you know how many collars I see still installed with zinc anchors? Zinc anchors melt and let go at 280 degrees and falls down, and we have another death. This is, my partner just tells me to keep looking down. I'll get into a shopping centre and go and start looking at collars and going fail, 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 everywhere. I saw one the other day with nylon anchors still used, and if you think about it, the collar holds it on while the fire's going on. Actually, I saw a green spaghetti with a plasterboard screw the other day. I think that was really cool. Don't use zinc anchors. And if Reese is in the world, don't sell any more collars with zinc anchors. It drives me insane. Don't cut down collars. I'll skip through this. This is one of the latest ones. QBCC are all after this. We're trying to get in-slab ones. The collars can't be cut down. You can't cut the tops off, blah, blah, blah. If you've got blank holes, so the next 5 minutes, these are the things we see wrong all the time. So it's rapid fire, but we'll go through it. If you've got a hole you need to fill in, you can't just put a block underneath it, fill it full of concrete. The concrete in a fire actually shrinks and that block falls out. So you need to put Rio. If you're using a snap collar, you can snip it, the springs go off and use that as a reinforcement. But you've got to have a method, something underneath, there's some Rio in it, that's how that one works. Snap's got one where you can actually put it in, it's actually a plastic, and that's a tested system. Above walls, just decide how you're doing it and where. Our advice to builders are get the real estate above the door, decide who's going where, because mostly it's in slab now, but if, I think you see here we've got some PEX pipes and we've got some gas pipes. There's a separation issue. So the next comment, ignore. Generally it's 40 to 50 minutes. Ignore that. Always keep everything 100 mils apart. The reason I say 100 mils, I tell everyone 100 mils and guarantee I get 60. You can't put multiple things in one hole, so I don't want to go there. The other one I talk about, so here's a differential. If you've got a damper, 200 mils away from a damper. So you can see I get fired up because this is just so basic stuff. Here's some options. You've probably seen Firebox. That's the green one. That's the red one. Really good. Put lots of stuff in there. There's some other one. This is TBA, which is actually a strip, and you can shove stuff through it. Works okay as well. Clashing of collars. Hang on, rapid fire here. I need a drink of water. You guys should be amazed because I've gone how long without really swearing so far? Okay, well, that is a record, I've got to tell you. Every job site I go to has this, and that is the plasterboard walls clash with the collars. Can we do anything about it? You can cut down the circle around it. That's a sacrificial formwork. There's lots of tests from Snap about it. Generally speaking, what we see is everyone tries to put a niche in the wall so the collar's exposed. Here's another option where we actually do the full niche and put a panel on one side of the wall. This is always a debate between the plasterers, the builders and the plumbers, who's responsible. And generally the architects are getting everything so close to the wall that the collars are always clashing. So you need to understand that. If you're doing in-slab lunchboxes, which is what I call them, I just want to point out, see this at the top corner? This doesn't work very well up there, but there's 90 mil, and it leaves 110 of concrete left. That's the minimum for your fire rating. And I think if you look at that little photo there with the tape on it, that's about 110 mils. In other words, I've only got 90 mils of concrete. This particular one was also in the drop down for the wet areas, so I had 60 mils of concrete left. It was a failure. Be really aware of where they're putting that. Just don't put them under the bathroom set downs. And I would suggest go 70 mils because it's just, there's lots of tests around that, so in slab conduits, I won't go into that now. The other thing that we see a lot of is the one on this side. Ignore the fact that it's got cork inside a collar you're not allowed to do, but the PEX pipe's joins in the copper. Now, if you think about this, I'm okay with that. In a fire, the PEX pipe melts, the intimate collar goes off and it's sealed. On the other one, I've got copper going through a slab and PEX pipes underneath it. In a fire, the PEX pipe's melted and then I got a flamethrower. So really, historically, and I'm thinking, 5 or 6 years ago, we used to put little bits of copper either side of the PEX pipes because it was really hard to fire rate the PEX pipes. Don't do that. You actually have 2 metres is the mount, but we have lots of options for testing PEX, so do that. 90 degrees. I don't know how you're going to fire rate that gas one that's going through at about 30 degrees. And don't even get me started. I certify walls as well. Don't even get me started about that walls. It's just disaster. An angular gap. So when we're using PEX pipes, and then this is actually not a PEX pipe, but when we're using PEX pipes, we're using an intumescent cork. So it's a cork version of the same stuff inside collars. Blows up 50 times. It's like popcorn. It's tight. In a fire, it blows up and it doesn't crush the pipe. It fills the gap in as the pipe melts. It's one of those little misconceptions. But every test has an angular gap that need it. That's the CPVC sprinkler pipe there, but you can see they've got a 90 mil hole. That's the size we want. The general mistake I hear, smaller hole the better. Erase that. For the TAFE teachers, don't teach the kids that. Oh, we put a really small hole. Good, now make it big. I want angular gap because the fire rating is done by this stuff around the inside. So that's angular gap is my big bitch I have, and it's inside the wall. We're trying to replicate a collar. Where I'm at 20 minutes, am I? I'm only halfway through. So angular gap, this one there, 10 to 30 mils. Everyone's scared about making big holes, don't be. It works much better. I just want to give you a little test report. So for every product you need, you should have the test report or at least have a passive fire person that's going to defend you. This is a test report. So here we've got a PEX pipe and we've got a gas pipe. We need a 70 mil hole. Beautiful. There's the 2 pickies of it. The gas gets 120/90. The water pipe gets 120/120. Cool. The gas pipe needs a cone on it. This is straight out of the test. And theoretically, you guys should be looking at me with your mouths open because no one even knows this. So you need to know what the cone is, and you guys on site need to know what the cone is. Pink foam, don't use it. Pink foam, you can buy from Bunnings, and it's 4-hour tested. It's 4-hour tested in a 500 mil bit of concrete, 5 mils apart, filled for the whole lot for pink foam. Wet paper would work for 4 hours. You may want to see that. It's a video. I think this is a job in Brisbane. That is actually not a smoke wall, so I really have no problem. But we've got the collars aren't tested. We've got copper going up collars. That's the top of a brick wall that's supposed to be fire rated. That's the comms room beside it. I got pipes coming out. I got more collars that have just got a cable in it, and they couldn't even clean up the shit on the floor because there's pink foam all over the floor. If you've got an employee do that, serious training is required. What I will teach you is, here's a test report. The one on the left, that's Bunnings pink foam, the pink one. The one below is Hilti's. Hilti's have a blue foam or a red foam. It works really well. 9 minutes, totally gone. And you should be offering it. So anyhow, the bottom line is pink foam doesn't work. Please do not use it. Insulation criteria. Copper pipe gets hot, we've got to wrap it. Everyone heard about that? We've got to wrap. and everyone hates it. It's a 4-hour lecture on why we do this. But get it approved. Fire engineering report says there's lots of reasons why you don't have to wrap it. It's water-filled pipe, it's already cooled. I won't go into details now, but that's what we see. We see copper pipes with stuff stacked against them. That's the cone we want to see, so that's the thing. The insulation criteria, which is that last 60 minutes or 90 minutes or 120, can be achieved by cork. It doesn't have to have wrap on it. So the amount of time I see wrap put on 50 mils or 25 mil copper pipes because they think they've got to wrap it, no. Bottom box down here, if anyone wants me to stop so your brains can catch up, I'm happy to take a breath. I got 48 slides to go, so really got to get into it. The bottom there, see the very bottom line says this is a Trafalgar product with a steel pipe. I know it says 100 mil steel pipe. You get 120/60 with just cork, 15 by 15 cork. The little asterisk says if you put a 50 by 50, so now we're talking about 200 mil round dome of cork coming out 50 mils, imagine that, you get 120/120, you don't have to wrap it. So the amount of time I see wrapping done that's not necessary also drives me insane. So that was just a really quick sample of stuff that I see that everyone gets wrong. I want to get to that example I had of all the different products we're going to use. That's the documentation you need on file, up front, and approved before you start. And make sure you use the same products you said you're going to use. At documentation stage, we now have to prove it. This is a job we did in the valley up in Brizzy. Just have a look. There's, of all the penetrations in the building, 64% were hydraulic. So you're the biggest pain in the arse in my world. Purely because you have the most. Collars are pretty good because collars last fairly well. Everyone gets it right. There's a few things we do wrong. When we start doing PEX, when we start doing copper, then we have a few challenges. But that's the amount of time we spend on site just making sure it's done properly. Out of that, we had to do a register. So this is out of the Australian standard. It says, you will do a register. I have a standard response to every plumber that says, we don't have to do registers. Well, good, get someone else to certify. Because you do. What it says is you should do it. I will cover that later. So you should do a register, and they're the things you should cover. This is how it should look. Shameless plug, that's our app that we use. And if any of you are working on jobs we're on, we're putting that in. We take a photo, we have a location, we close it out, all the details are in there, and that's what you've got to do. That's the stuff you've got to cover when you do a register. There's all the items you've got to have, what size, what not. It needs a sticker. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. I'm talking to myself. You should see inside my brain. This is really scary. What's happening inside my brain? We just write number 1 on it. Well, good. You've got to find it again. The problem I have with not putting stickers on it, or the advantage of putting stickers on it, I'll defect it and say you can find it because it's number 32. And here's the floor plan that shows where it is. Go back and fix it up because you've got slurry in all the triggers. You've got things overlapping. You've got whatever else. That's what they look like. You should have your own or get someone to do it. You need a photo of every penetration. I almost went back to, no I don't, yes you do. You need to indicate where it is. That's sort of out of the app, that's sort of the number and where it is. The red says it's a defect, you need to go back. I see this sort of stuff, so that's just a hydraulic plan, all mocked up. This is actually pretty good because they've indicated all their wall types. That become their register. It's not quite right, but it's got something. And there's a really good reason why we have these. This is what we get as a builder's representative. Everyone gives me a register that looks in all different formats. The builder's got to put that together and hand it over to the body corporate and go, here's everything in the building, and this is how we're going to defend ourselves when we get defected. There's lots in that. That's an Excel version of the same thing. You can do it that way. A Form 12, which we have in Queensland, which basically says that's what it looks like. Here's a blown up version of it. Here's everything we've used and where it is and what the FRL, and the next bit down says, and here's the test report that relates to it. This is what building certifiers are chasing. If you're not giving this, you're going to have troubles. Here's another one. It just lists all the different products, where they are, and what the test reports. For our New South Wales, there's a New South Wales certificate of the same. No one asked for these in New South Wales. We issue them, but you should issue them. And the reason being is that's your defence. This is what I've done. That's all I've done. No, I didn't do all the landscaping plumbing that came in afterwards and they bashed holes everywhere because I got evidence of proving it. Post-completion defects, I spend a lot of time showing people how to do it economically. I would much rather get it right up front. But you've got to provide this stuff. And if you're going to repair it, here's a couple of baddies. You're going to repair it, know how, and know your guys on site how. What I also see is I generally see passive fire passed down to the first year apprentice because no one else wants to touch it. And he's costing you a fortune. Nothing's the same without a shame file. Here's a few good ones. This is nothing real special. This is out of my phone a couple of weeks ago of jobs we've seen. So plumbing. I particularly, the top right, if you know a ProMat unicollar, it comes in a roll. You cut off what you want, put it around. The guy thought you had to use the whole roll, so he just kept running around the pipe till it ran out. The bottom green ones are in slab collars, held in there with zinc anchors, which I previously said I hate, without the nail knocked in. Would never work. I particularly like the timber box with the collar. I think that's going to work really well. Interesting, the bottom one that looks like that's going around. In Europe, that's actually a test. I'm actually trying to get people to do it because it's a challenge we have. The copper on the top, I flew to Sydney to certify a building and those top two are out of it. He bashed holes in the blockwork, put a bit of copper and then pink foam over there. We don't do there. Oh. Am I down to 5 minutes yet? Perfect. I just want to talk, so this is why we do this. I'll still deal with the stuff on the bottom first. That's the extract I said you should do it. So this is my version of what happened in coroner. This is a real job in a coroner's court. It wasn't plumbing, it was actually active fire, and they had decided to do something contrary to the standard. Well, actually not true. Their defence in coroner's court, so there was a death, the contractor is in court, in a coroner's court, and said, the standard says you should do it. And they go, oh yeah, it's just a recommendation. And this is what the coroner said, and this should ring through your ears. So the industry experts of the industry said this should be done. You chose not to and caused the death of this lady. Does that make clear? Shall, should, don't give a shit. It's yes, you must. Defend yourself, because this is the stuff in court. The other coroner's court job, it wasn't a plumbing issue, but it very well could have been. It was a wall issue. Block of units, old guy comes home, been on the terps, put the stove on, fell on the bed, fell asleep, stove caught alight, fire caught alight, went through 5 units in about 4 minutes, as in light. The picture in there, as you can see, and for those in the industry long enough, block walk goes up the ceiling, nothing goes above, there's no compartmentisation between the units. All those other 5 units burnt out, everyone escaped, no one died. The old guy died, that's why we're in a coroner's court, and they had the building certifier, the passive fire certifier, one of me, and thankfully not me, the builder and the building certifier, and basically said, this is my ruling. Had you done it properly, he probably would have still died. Had he died in one of the other units caused by your negligence, we'd be talking criminal jail time. That scares the shit out of me. This face is way too pretty for jail. So that's coroner's court, and I just sort of want to put some effort on what we're doing. While that was a wall, that could have been 2 units, no collars on the plumbing, fire goes up, someone dies up above, your fault. Here's my takeaways, take it seriously. Get the test, decide what you're doing. Every job, particularly if you're doing multi-res, every job, work out what you're doing, get the test, get someone like myself to make sure you're doing it properly, and get it pre-approved. So go to the building certifier saying, this is what we're doing, are you okay with that? Rationalise your products. Don't give the boys, or don't let the boys go to Reese and pick up whatever cork they've got. Have the same one all the time. Make sure they understand what the cone is. Do some training. We'll do training for you if you want it. So have a go-to expert, don't make it up. It's just it's that important. And have a way of registering what you're doing so that you understand. This is our website. That little square up there says, I've got all the supplier manuals on our website, so if you want a boss or anyone else, go in there, you can download it, you can get the install guides. If you've got a problem, give us a call. We have an academy as well, so we do training. We've done a whole heap of training. Well, we did some training for yourself, I think. And there's some online courses we've got in there, and you can do that. That's the app I talked about, and I'm done.
Well done.